Hello? Okay. So, we're going to start with some speakers. Now, there's lots of things we need to mention to you, first of all, before we get into our talks. And I'm going to forget loads of stuff. I'm going to forget lots of things, so you'll remind me. We're going to have a health and safety announcement in a moment, and Richard's going to help us with that. Then there's a couple of other things I need to mention, like our wonderful sponsors. They have been truly fabulous, so we'll let you know who they are and what they've done. And then we've got 7 speakers, which I have tweeted about half an hour ago, like a draft program. So if you go on Twitter, you search for hashtag #RaspberryJam, all one word, no spaces, you'll see it says things like Heber, RISC, Gordon Henderson, Arthur Amarra, Fen Consultants, Paul Hallett, and Rob Bishop. You can find that list. And then lots of other stuff. But first of all, a safety announcement.
Thank you very much. Welcome everybody to the Bristol and Bath Science Park. We're really proud to host the first Raspberry Jam here today. So I'm Richard Pitkin, the Innovation Centre Director. If anybody wants to look around, come and see me, but that's not why you're here, so we'll do it another day. Come and introduce yourself. The most important thing really is that the toilets ladies are over there, downstairs. Gents are immediately above. And there's some unisex ones around the back towards the conference centre as you go around the corner here. There is no fire drill. If there is a fire alarm, go to the far end of the car park, exit by that door if you're in here, or by the nearest entrance, which is outside the conference rooms around the side. The welcome drinks are sponsored by Broadcom, so there's coffee, juices, free to everybody here while it lasts. Over in Frisco, the cafe over there, they have Wye Valley Ale and various other beers to go with their pulled pork bats and salads and what have you. So there's a plenty to keep you sustained through these few hours of activity. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over because this is all the dull stuff. So welcome and have fun.
Well, hopefully it doesn't. If we have a fire, then it gets exciting. But okay. Sorry. So I want to acknowledge the fantastic work that our sponsors have done. So first of all, I'm going to mention the organisation that Richard works for. So it's BBSP. If you don't know what it is, you're in BBSP, Bristol and Bath Science Park. What an amazing place! If you look around, and do have a look around. But not just yet, because it will be rude. And come back after today, because it's open to the public all the time. I tweeted a little interview I did earlier before with Richard and Bonnie, who helped maintain this place, and they were telling me about the fantastic cafe. Hello, people in the cafe. Yeah, we hear it's the best place to come and get coffee and cake, and it's open. You come along with your family, your friends, have a little meeting. There's loads of little spaces around, little corners, and later on, Rob Bishop of the Raspberry Pi Foundation is going to be hiding in one of those spaces. I'll tell you how you can find him and ask him them awkward questions you don't want to ask in public. Heber! Let's hear it for Heber. Okay. Oh, and let's hear it for BBSP as well. So, Heber, I'm a little bit ignorant about Heber. What I think they are, they're an electronics company. All I know is that the people who work for Heber are fantastic because they've done things like they've helped with some of the costs about putting this thing together. They've helped fund different things. But they also have a great crew of people. Every time I go around, I keep meeting somebody. Do you work for Heber? Oh, well, there are loads of Heber people here. Maybe next year you will, if you're lucky. But there's lots of lovely people like Richard. I'm glad he's got a sticker on. Richard and Nigel and Kate. You may not have met Kate, but you may have got a ticket sent to Kate or something like that. So they're help holding all of this thing together. I've done nothing really. I'm just a shyster. I turn up with a microphone and say hello, and then I say goodbye. So they've made all this sort of stuff happen. And there's lots of other amazing people like Trevor. Hello, say hello, Trevor. Hello. Hey. Okay. Trevor's done loads of stuff, and it's like working behind the scenes, contact with like Broadcom. Have you heard of Broadcom? Way. Broadcom are also a sponsor, and as Richard mentioned before, they've also deep in their pockets, and they provided some refreshments that you'll be able to make the most of, which are lovely. But you might want to try the ones in the cafe at Frisca as well, just to see how they compare. But don't tweet about it, because keep that to yourself. Now, an apology. I sent a message out the other day, an email, saying you might want to bring some money along. Hint, hint. Well, Rob Bishop can explain later on why you can't buy any Raspberry Pis. Apparently, Evans dropped him in it. So let's not give the guy a hard time. Raspberry Pi, they're a fabulous team. They do lots of stuff, but I'm sorry, we can't sell you any Raspberry Pis tonight. However, Patrick has brought some amazing stuff you can spend your money on. So when you do get a Raspberry Pi, you'll have a nice little home you can put it in on your mantelpiece, or in front of your TV, or whatever. Okay, before Alan shuts up, please help spread the jam. So you can use Twitter, so hashtag Raspberry Jam. Just say something like, oh, Alan and his corny jokes again. But talk about the good stuff as well that you see. Exactly. What did he say? Yes, you can use a knife to spread the raspberry jam, but not a sharp one, please. And there's lots of people with cameras. Please take lots of photos. If your camera's in your pocket, on your phone, please take photos. Take pictures of all the nice, lovely people here and spread the jam. There's people taking videos. If you've got one of these smartphone things, they're not quite as good as a Raspberry Pi, but you can take videos. We don't care, just put them on YouTube. It doesn't matter if there's other people doing it. You'll capture something that they don't. And, stop talking too much, Alan. Introduce the first speaker. So, our first speaker, Richard Horne, from one of our sponsor companies, Heber, is going to talk to you about the X10i. Richard. Yes, come forward. Okay.
How do you... Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. Thank you for all coming tonight. It's really exciting to be here, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Heber and our products, and just give you some ideas of what we've actually done with the Raspberry Pi and what we'd like to do for the future. I'll introduce us all again, because Alan did miss out a couple of us, and we're scattered around. So, first of all, Kate. She's doing the presentation, helping me with the presentation tonight. So, Kate's over there. So, big round of applause for Kate. And Nigel. Now, Nigel's awesome. He put most of this together, to be honest. Actually got this venue sorted for us and really made this happen. The demo we've got running in the room around the corner was all Nigel's work. So, our awesome engineer, Nigel. Everyone turn around and point at Graham. Got Graham there. Graham wants to talk to you. And we've got Mark, who sat here, and he's going incognito tonight. He hasn't got his uniform on. Yeah, so talk to Mark. He's another one of our wonderful engineers. Okay, so that's us. We're a small company, local company. We're in Stroud, and we're about 35 people or so. We're basically a team of engineers that really enjoy doing designs and electronics. We've been around for about 30 years. We design electronic controls, thank you, Kate, and we use embedded systems, Windows and Linux, and now the Raspberry Pi. Okay, that's a really small little flag, but we're really passionate about UK manufacture. So 95% of everything that we actually make, all the electronic circuit boards, are actually manufactured here, right here in the UK. So we do sell around about 15k a month, and they all get manufactured in the UK here. The product we're actually talking about tonight gets manufactured in the UK. So it's really important for us. Who here works for a UK company? Let's show our hands, anyone? A couple of you, a few of you, yeah, good, that's good. Okay, so, yeah, why Pi? Now, we actually took an interest in the Pi long before it was in the news, so we were watching its development and waiting, like everyone else, to actually get our hands on one. Myself, Nigel, a few others, we were one of the people that got up at 5 o'clock in the morning trying to order one in February. We finally got hold of one, and it's not just the cost-effectiveness of the Pi that took our interest. Pi is really important because it's a stable platform and it's a fixed platform. that's really, really good for what we do for our customers, because we actually integrate these things into products that go all around the world. So having a fixed hardware design is really, really useful. If you've ever tried using a PC motherboard to design anything, you know about all the problems and nightmares you have with BIOSes and Windows updating and all that sort of thing. Okay, so it was really important for us. When we got hold of the Pi, we already knew that it was going to be limited on I/O, but what we thought about was actually using some of our I/O control boards to actually interface with the Raspberry Pi. And this one, X10i, is one of our most successful boards. We sold probably about 150k of them around the world, and it's been around for a long time. So it runs on Windows and Linux. So we ported our drivers across, Nigel did that, across the Raspberry Pi in about 2 days, wasn't it? I think it was pretty good. So really, really quick, and we got it running quite easily. So we do all sorts of USB peripherals. Come and talk to us afterwards. We're in the demo room showing you all sorts of different peripherals. They can run reels. When I say that, I mean motors, stepper motors, drive LEDs, do all sorts of really cool stuff. So the one we're talking about tonight is more of a general purpose thing. It's got SRAM on it, it's got battery backed real-time clocks, all sorts of bits and bobs. Okay, so that's just a few ideas of some of the boards that we do. What can X10i do? Basically, it senses the world around you and it controls things. What's really important to us is that the actual Raspberry Pi board is very good for the video side, but it's not so great, obviously, for dealing with connections to the real world. So our board actually takes that one step further, and it has a full-speed USB 2 connection. So it's not like the Arduino; it's just a serial port. It actually is a proper, true USB device. We've got a real awesome set of drivers and API tools that we can use for that. Can control LEDs, switches, stepper motors, all sorts of things. It's got a few, these are just some of it, it's got tons, I could spend hours talking to you about what it can do, but it's got some really good general purpose I/O that's really easy to talk to. You can just tell it to switch an output on or read an input. It's got battery-backed RAM if you want to store things when your Pi's turned off. A couple of real serial ports, which is useful, because serial ports are quite useful and a bit missing on some PC systems. Audio amplifier, so you can amplify the audio coming out of your Pi. And it's got a dedicated processor as well. That's probably the most important thing about this, that the board itself has actually got a processor on board to do all the real-time functions. So what that means is the PC, the actual Linux operating system, is not having to keep up in real time. This does all the work and sends back messages backwards and forwards on the USB bus. So really important. We've got a really rock-solid API set. It's been around for almost 11 years now for this product range, and they actually are transparent throughout the range, so you can use them on all different products that we make. We've got C and C++, and Python is coming. Now, we're really interested to know who uses Python. Show of hands. Yay, good. Some Python users. Who would like to use more Python on the Pi? Yay, good. Okay. We might have to do Python then, right? So we've got loads of example programs and things to show you. We've got a dedicated forum for the Pi now on our website, and we've got some really specific protocols and interfacing as well. Might not seem that obvious at the moment, but one of the main uses this board is for vending machines, so coffee machines, that sort of thing, and it has all sorts of really cool protocols to talk to, CoinMex, note acceptors, and stuff like that, all built into it. It's really neat. So if you're ever thinking about doing anything that vends, that's the board for you. Okay. So what next? We really want to hear what you think. The reason why we wanted to organise this jam and actually talk to you is that we know that this isn't right for everyone, and we really want to do more and more developments for the community, for the Raspberry Pi board, and this was a 7-foot-tall Tetris demo that we did about in January. It was really cool, using these big LED boards here. So we did this just for fun, and on the first day I had an awesome score. This guy thrashed me, absolutely thrashed me. It was such a shame. We had to video him, and we ended up giving him a DS, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. So because he was really, really good. But yeah, I was a bit disappointed not to win that. But yeah, we had these really cool boards made up, and we did a really big Tetris demo all fully with LEDs running off of the USB. At that point, obviously it was in January, we didn't have a Pi running, but it could be recompiled now for the Pi. Okay, so we want to talk to you after these presentations. We've got a website. You can actually buy one of these X10Is right now with PayPal if you wish. You can get loads of cool stuff off of us and loads of support. We really want to know what you're doing, what you want to do with it, and also what you might want in the future, hardware-wise. That's really what we're here for today, to find out what's missing. So come and talk to us, and I hope you have enjoyed my little presentation, and you'll enjoy the rest of the speakers. I want to say another big thank you to Kate and Nigel, because without them this wouldn't have happened tonight, and they put a lot of work in. So big clap. Okay, I shall move on.
That's fine. I'm starting to think you've been looking at my schedule timings, because that was absolutely bang on. Let's hear it for Heber once again. Our Heber heroes. Now, one of the things that Raspberry Pi helps with all of this is it helps us find and celebrate heroes, people who are doing things in education, people who are doing things around education, because that's principally what Raspberry Pi is all about. It's trying to help people learn how to do things like code and hack, but good hacking. Not like how to hack into people's bank accounts, but like how to take something and figure out, how do I make this do this? Now, I was talking to Eben back at the Cambridge Raspberry Jam, and when he found out that our next speaker, Keith Dunlop, was coming, he was like, got to talk to this Keith Dunlop. And Keith you're part of a group called RUGOL, aren't you? ROUGOL, which is something like RISC Open Group of Users London, something like that. Yeah. He's nodding. And you've not brought your brother tonight. It's just you.
No,
yeah.
What you mean? I actually got my name right.
Yeah. So, who knows what RISC is? Hands up if you know what it is. Oh, quite a lot of you. You're going to have to do a different talk. Okay, do you know anything else? So, let's show it up for Keith Dunlop. Thank you. And we will have lots of hands-on stuff later on, but you've got to listen to Keith.
Yeah, sorry about that. Right, first things first is obviously I'm actually doing a presentation from a Raspberry Pi. I know that was a bit shocking, not many people do, although thankfully it is beginning to change. Let me just get the thing powered up. Yeah, I got it around the wrong way.
Show us the board.
Well, we'll just wait for it to come up. It'll be up in a minute. Right, well, Alan's already done this. Normally, when I'm doing this, the first question I ask is, who remembers a computer company called Acorn? Hands in the air. Yeah, lots and lots of people. Keep your hands in the air if you remember an operating system called RISC OS. Yeah, we've already done it. Right, we're just waiting for it to boot up now. Should have some display now. We've got a problem. Uh-oh. This always happens. I love doing presentations because, I don't know about you, but I think I look brilliant with my foot in my mouth. This is what happens if you use Crestron control systems. They're rubbish. I used to work with them.
Anyone else want to go?
Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen.
While we're waiting, has anybody ever heard of Broomhill in Bristol? Broomhill? Yeah. No, somebody shaking his head. Somebody just put their hand up if they know where Broomhill is. Okay, there's a lady over there, she's got her hand up. Do you live near Broomhill? Okay, so while Keith is sort of stuff, do you live near... Does anybody live near Broomhill? No, this is not a trick question. Does anybody here live near Broomhill or pass it on their way home? Because we've got somebody who was so desperate to come here tonight, they spent 2 hours travelling on a bus. 2 buses. Two buses. Oh, are you the person? Okay. So just give us a wave so we know who you are.
Where's it close to?
So, he doesn't really want to spend 2 hours on 2 buses on the way home. Do we know your name yet? Do you know your name? Alan Kennedy? Alec Kennedy. I bet he's got lots of stuff he can tell you about Raspberry Pi. If you want to give him a lift home or something, please don't make him spend 2 hours travelling home. How are things going, Keith?
Not very well.
Okay.
Can you tell us where Broomhill is? Somewhere in the south of Bristol, that one I know.
Gosh, how did you do that without a microphone?
I'm loud.
Oh, I thought I was loud. So, somewhere in the south of Bristol.
I'd be quite happy just to get to the centre of town.
Oh, he's negotiating now. They say, middle of town, anybody? I'm heading back to Preston tomorrow morning. Is that... No, it means you'd have to share a bed with me tonight. I snore. Okay. I think that's an offer. Any advance on blah, 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 blah? No, he's got a nice smiley face. Talk to him. It may be a match made in heaven, okay? So, while Keith is making it look this is how difficult it is. It's his job to make things look hard.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think I'm doing really well, actually. Really special.
Yeah. So,
at some point, when the display system actually starts working, it wouldn't work before because somebody disconnected the cable. The cable's now been plugged back in again, and there's much sweating going on over here.
And not just because it's hot.
I know it's got nothing to do with temperature, it's got much to do with the fact that it worked perfectly before people turned up. It's always the same.
It did. I have photographic evidence.
It did work.
now, we may move to Gordon, our next speaker, in a moment. So Gordon's
You
thinking-
won't be moving to Gordon as next speaker
So-
in a minute because he's going to have the same problem as me.
Okay. So, let me just tell you a few things at the moment.
Yeah, you start paddling, Alan, that'd be good.
And I'll try and keep the jokes out. One of the things
What? How did the Raspberry Pi cross the road?
That's a good question.
Go on.
Is that a
You're
joke?
the one that's supposed to do the jokes.
How did the Raspberry... Knife guy, you tell me, knife guy. How did the Raspberry Pi cross the road?
I don't know.
He doesn't know, Keith. How did the Raspberry Pi cross the road?
Used its arms.
That's a nice segue into me introducing a speaker who's going to come on later on after Keith.
Wait, we're booting. At long last.
Booting up.
Right, hang on a minute. I shall just need to ask the technical stuff. What did you do?
I selected laptop 1 and I power cycled it.
Ah. Roger, restart. Right. Right. There's a lot of you in here who've heard about RISC OS. RISC OS is an old operating system, goes all the way up to 1987. It's unusual in that it's one of the very, very few that were genuinely designed for the ARM processor from day one. In fact, the first ARM processor was... We haven't made the Ethernet connection either. Right. Third time lucky. As you all know, the system on a chip that the Raspberry Pi uses is based around the ARM architecture. And ARM was originally designed by a company called Acorn, which we talked about. It's actually one of the most interesting things in the world. Is anybody in this room seen an ARM 1, the very, very first ARM? No? It was sold as a second, well, it was only, a few hundred made, well, not even 100 made, but you watch the BBC B, there's some guys have turned up with a Beeb next door, it's brilliant. Yeah. And it had booted up saying it's got 4096K of memory, which is quite crazy. Right, this is going to take a while because the DHCP server's rubbish in this building. Oops, did I just say that? I did, didn't I? There we go. No, that's fine. It's not a problem.
That's how I remember RISC.
What, crushing all the time?
So,
Yeah, right.
nice little interlude.
Right, so we're up and running. At long last. This, one of the things the RISC OS is supposed to be famous for is its really quick boot. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. In public, I've actually done the slowest RISC OS boot in history. What was that? 10 minutes? 15? Half an hour? I don't know, how many jokes did you manage to crack? I managed one. Oh, well, I was second, was it? Oh, you're so diplomatic, Alan. Right. It is a desktop operating system. Yes. A desktop operating system. You're going to think, but because it was designed to run on ARMs, it's very, very efficient. Now, this is with absolutely no acceleration whatsoever. If I just find some pictures. Where are my pictures? Here. Well, no, these ones are much better. Right. There's a lot of people had their hands in the air just now. Do you remember the old Acorn Artworks demonstrations? This is how to prove how quick your RISC OS computer is. Actually, I tell you, I haven't really got a feel for this audience yet, have I? Those of you that do remember RISC OS, can you put your hands in the air if you actually owned one of the computers? Can you keep your hands in the air if the last Acorn computer you owned was a RISC PC? Okay, right. Be prepared for something that is going to blow your head off. All right, remember this one? In that demonstration before? Oh, I should really... It's quite funny, there's... This is a vector drawing.
Wow.
Quite quick. Yeah, well, that's the joke. That's why whenever you do this demonstration, you always go on to the license plate, because you can actually go all the way into the fact that it says it's 1982. And obviously the other thing, about just sort of the native speed of the things, you just saw that window just popped up straight in between. Right, I mean, obviously I'm now running out of time, so I need to end my presentation. I'm not going to go into the sort of more of the details of how this works. I mean, you may find it looks a bit weird, those of you not seen it before. Like, whoa, hang on a minute. Isn't there a bit missing along here? RISC OS has 3 buttons on the mouse, always done in the right way. If you hold the mouse, you've got 3 fingers ready, so you can do, which means menus in the middle. But if you want to come and see all that sort of stuff, there'll be my Pi, if it still works, and another 2 in the demo room in there. I already bag-seated one of the big screens by putting my foot in it. Put my bag underneath it. And in order to link into the next presentation, there is one reason why RISC OS is very important to the Raspberry Pi Foundation. I can't say what Eben Upton said when he was playing with my Raspberry Pi at the breakout session in Cambridge, because there are children in the room. His reply by email was, yes, that was not safe for work. Sorry about this, I need 4 fingers.
We need the 4th one for.
Because this is a very strange small keyboard.
Right.
Tell you what, let's try and do this the short way. Right. RISC OS has built into it this. This is what the Raspberry Pi Foundation are interested in RISC OS about. Because to this day, it still contains BBC Basic. And yes, the last time it was updated was 1989. Well, this is Basic 5. It's actually Basic 6 now as well. But Basic 5 is the simple version. It's in there. It's got a programming language built into it, which is important for the purposes of the Raspberry Pi. Yeah, we will also have the latest version of Python running on RISC OS. It's currently being ported. Oh no, there were lots of people that like Python in here, weren't there? Oh yeah. Well, you see, I'm a user. Programming, what the hell's that for? I just play with computers. That's what I do for a living. Right. I think it's time I hand over to Gordon, because he's going to talk about this language in a lot more detail.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, here's one. Am I going to talk about BASIC? I sort of wasn't, actually, but I've been landed into it, so I'm going to talk about BASIC now. Keith's about to power down my Raspberry Pi, which has got his SD card in. So if he takes his SD card out, puts my SD card in real time, and then switches it on again, how many seconds to boot a Pi? Oh, it's gone!
I'll be back. Here it comes.
There we go. Right, booted.
9 seconds.
It actually takes 5. But it was a little bit. Anyway, so we booted a Pi into BASIC in 5 seconds. So who needs to boot RISC OS? Who needs to do anything else?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it'll be 12 rounds. Just outside. Oh, and I'll win.
So I'll come out here. I'm a computer programmer or a software engineer. And one of the things, when I started my career 30 odd years ago, I was programming. I did programming at school on Apple IIs. BBC Micro hadn't been invented then. I left school, went to university, and then the BBC Micro was invented, and I bought one. I paid £400 for one. How much is a Raspberry Pi? You can get several Raspberry Pis for £400. Anyway, I did lots of programming. My real passion is interfacing, is control, is computer control. It's basically taking computers, connecting them to things. Teachers at my school said, nothing you can type on a keyboard can damage the computer. Well, you connect a computer to a robot, and you get a robot to swing a great big arm around, and that sort of doesn't become true anymore. So I spent 8 years at Napier University in Edinburgh, working in the mechanical industrial control department, programming robots, designing robots, doing lots of nice, exciting stuff to make things move and make things fall over. And then it all sort of went pear-shaped. I moved to Bristol, strangely enough. There's a little control company in Bristol, which isn't Heber. There's another control company in Gloucestershire. There may be one or two people here from it. That kind of went pear-shaped after a few months. And then I got into computing and boring computing. Computer programming, where you type things on a computer and something happens 1,000 miles away. And it's kind of, you're detached from it all. And life kind of went on and went on and on and on, and things changed, and the internet came, and the internet's still with us, and I moved to Devon. And recently, the Raspberry Pi has just come along, and it's made me think, actually, I really enjoy programming, I really enjoy interfacing stuff, I really enjoy connecting wires together, making things blow up, maybe trying not to make things blow up, and making things move. I've got over here, I'll just come along. You can have a look at this later. It's a bit rubbish, because I ran out of time when I was building it. Last week, there was a Raspberry Jam event in Penzance, and this is Ratty, and he's got a Pi inside him. So last week he was the Pi Rat of Penzance. This week, I don't know what he is. He's just nonsense. But he's not very clever. But he does move. There is a Raspberry Pi in there. It is talking to the motors in there. My initial idea had been to connect it up to a big track. There's a chap over there with a big track. You go and see him. It's really cool. He's got a proper big track. I've got a big track. When I took it to bits to try and put this inside it, I discovered that somebody had already taken it to bits, and that's the joy of buying things on eBay. It wasn't quite there. There wasn't enough inside it for me to put the Pi inside it. There was, however, a rotation sensor. So there's a wheel rotation sensor out of a real big track inside there. So there's the spirit of big track lives on in this little thing down here. So it's but there's a lot of programming. There's a little I/O board here. There's lots of things soldered onto it. There's a little homemade Matrix keyboard there. So, and that's what I do. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy interfacing. I enjoy making things move like that. And we go back to what the Pi is maybe about, which is education. How do you get people into computing? They've got to give that wow factor. You put somebody down in front of a computer and it's drawing a nice little web page, and you think, oh, that's lovely, but it's just pretty in graphics. Make them light a light up. Make a motor turn. Make them do something really easy. And actually, maybe that'll get them more excited in computing. Maybe that'll make them want to learn a little bit more about computing and programming. I've got my basic here. That was going to be slightly later on, but sort of arm has been twisted like Keith there. This isn't BBC Basic. This is Return to Basic, because I'm really dull at inventing names for things. Last December, I came across some old basic programs that I wrote 32 years ago. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to get them running again? And I thought, I'll translate them into C. C is my programming language. I don't do any of this Python stuff. I do C. And I thought, right, I'll just translate them into C. And then I thought, well, why don't I just write a basic interpreter? How hard can it be?
Quite hard?
Relatively hard. It was an interesting challenge. Anyway, it took me a month and I wrote it. So one of the things that I enjoyed, I don't know, does anybody remember Logo and Turtles and things like that?
Yes.
Who here programmed in BASIC? Put your hand up if you program. You see, there's over half the audience here programmed in BASIC. Nothing wrong with BASIC when it's done properly. Absolutely nothing at all. Let me see if I can get something going. I'm going to have to type blind. A bit of luck, that'll work. Hey, there we go. Yeah, and it's a bit small, but that's because it's a big screen. The program to do that is, there you go, it's 15 lines long. But, move 10, turn right, move, turn right, which is exactly what you do on a big track. And the real live big track does exactly that. You pre-program it, you use units of its own length, and it goes. So there's a little program which generates that. I'll show you something else, I think, which I might be able to do quickly. Yeah, so if you've got turtle graphics, you can generate a square. Generate a square is easy. You know, you go forward, you turn, you go forward, you turn, you go forward. If you can generate one square, you can't see that because it's a dark colour. Anyway, you can't see it. There is actually 4 squares there. So, you know, look great on my monitor, but there's 4 squares there. You generate one square, you can do 4 squares. You can do 4 squares. You can do 360 squares. And that brings into something that I couldn't do 30 years ago because it was so slow. Even on a BBC Micro, which was relatively fast, you couldn't do that because it was just slow. It was, and it's for me. I love this. I could play with this all day, but maybe somebody else would want to. Is that the one? Yeah, it's pretty dark. But, you know, that's something. You do that on your Apple II, your BBC Micro, you'd sit down, you'd wait half an hour for that to do. And yet here it is here. It's lovely, isn't it? If you like that sort of thing, if you want to bring art into programming, then I think that actually... No, there you go. A big art program. Generates pretty pictures. Really easy to do. This is something that I used to sit in front of. Maybe I just spent too much time sitting in front of computers drawing pretty pictures. But when I was young, this did sort of amuse me a little bit. And you can do interesting things. You can animate turtle graphics. Who would have thought you could animate turtle graphics 30 years ago? But now we've now got the computer power to do it, and it's all written in BASIC. BASIC is wonderful. So just to finish this off, what I'll do is can you tell what it is yet? Now, has anybody seen one of these? Who knows what this is? This is. It's one of those. It's a Nintendo. It's one of the original Nintendo joysticks. I've got it connected up to my Pi here. It's. I'm not going to say that I'm the world's best Pong player, but do you know that when you play Pong, the bounce angle on the paddles is fixed, depending on where the ball hits the paddle? Not many people know that.
Not many people have tried to write their own version of that.
Well, exactly. Anyway, this is written in BASIC. Just before you think, there's about. I'll let that go off. It's going to bounce. Yeah. And also the speed is dependent on where on the paddle it is. You've got to read really old copies of Creative Computing to find that out. Anyway, so there's bits of the program. So basically, get back into programming. Use I/O on the Pi or something to get people back into programming. Make them, even if they're going to make a light up, or if they're going to draw something clever on a screen. It's in front of them, it's immediate. You don't have to worry about any fancy editors, you don't have to worry about compiling, you don't have to worry about getting the operating system getting in the way. It's there, it's straight away, and it's in front of you. Get programming. Thank you.
So, one of the things I would ask, and all of our speakers do tonight, I've briefed them, I said, please don't take any questions from the floor, because I want people, a little bit like when you go to one of these cheese tasting things, I want some of you to think, gosh, that looked interesting, how do I find out more about it? So when our talks finish, and we'll go back into this spreading the jam, go and find those speakers, go and talk to them, and we'll tell you where they'll be, and ask them, how on earth did you do things like that? So, speakers, if you've got notes and slides and blogs and stuff, still use that hashtag RaspberryJam to share, and so people can go and look for it and find it afterwards. Who here is blogging tonight? Okay, who here is blogging tomorrow? Hey, okay. Now, when I've asked people, do you blog? They say, oh, nothing to blog about. Of course you have. All this amazing stuff. All these lovely people. Hello, do you have a Raspberry Pi? Do you have a Raspberry Pi?
No.
No. Would you like one?
Yeah.
Yeah. He wants a Raspberry Pi. What do you want to do with it?
Make games.
That's awesome. What kind of games?
I know, mostly side-scrollers.
Side-scrolling games. If anybody knows how he can do that, come and talk to him. Because would you love to know how to do that?
Yes.
You're going to tell me you can already do it, right?
Basic one, maybe.
Okay. And when I came in tonight, I started looking around and I got a bit nervous. I used to watch something called The Muppet Show. You know The Muppet Show? There used to be these two guys and they always shouted stuff like, get on with it. You're not going to shout at me, you two guys up there, are you? Oh, they're smiling. Now, Arthur Amarra's here, and I shook hands with him earlier, and I was a bit surprised because he's brought along his robotic arm that's voice controlled. And you know, when I shook hands with him, it just felt like any other arm. Come forward. Doesn't that just look like any other arm? But he has a robotic arm that's voice controlled. So, Arthur, can we clip this onto you? All right. And pop that in your pocket, but don't walk out of the building with it in your pocket.
No, I can just hold it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm not one of the people here that has a computer science background. I'm actually an engineer, and I was lucky enough when I was 5 years old that my parents bought a computer. It may have been a mistake on my mom's part to buy a computer with a curious 5-year-old in the house, but it proved very beneficial to me. So let me just see if VGA connection is there. But anyway, so I started tinkering with computers when I was 5 years old, but I eventually got into engineering. And last year, I just had this random idea of buying a robotic arm from Maplin and controlling it with my voice. So it got featured in the front page of the RaspberryPi Foundation. Some of you may have seen it. If not, I'll be showing the videos in the demonstration area later. And I have also an interesting project that I want to show. What's on screen?
It's just a distraction. Ignore it.
Okay, let me just have a go. Should be automatically. There. Nope. Okay, that's all right, because I have a really boring presentation. It's just that I like, tinkering with robotics and programming. So I'll have some very interesting demonstration in the demo room later. So what I think is good about the Raspberry Pi is that it makes computers accessible to so many people, especially children. So I was fortunate enough to get exposure to computers at an early age, and I think the Raspberry Pi is going to be fantastic to achieve this goal as well. And one of the best comments that I've received for my robotic arm in my YouTube page was that a teenager posted that the robotic arm inspired him to start programming, to start tinkering. And
It's almost working.
all right.
Yeah. While Arthur's getting it to work, I'll let you into a secret. Arthur works for a very large company that make airplanes. So don't be surprised in the future if you're on an airplane and this robotic arm comes forward when you ask for peanuts.
Yes, yes, I happen to work for Airbus, which is down the road in Filton, and I like to tinker with, computers, electronics, and code in my spare time. So it's what hackers do, really. And, you know, it's what Raspberry Pi is trying to promote is hacking as a term, which means, you know, finding innovative solutions to real-world problems. So let me just move on to some of my slides. Okay. So I've been working on a robotic arm with a speech decoder that I've downloaded from a Japanese university. And I can demonstrate it later in the demo room, although it still has some accuracy issues. But I'm currently working on fixing accuracy so that once voice recognition is working on the Pi, it would, you know, open up enormous possibilities. So you can have, say, voice-controlled lighting in your room, for example. You just say, lights please, and everything turns on. So hopefully I can solve those problems and, you know, enable interesting applications. And what I'm going to present in the demo room later is a robotic car, okay? So I'm working on an autonomous car, a self-driving car to be specific. It's not self-driving yet, but I have enabled a lot of features on it, which I'll demonstrate in the demo room. And I expect that, you know, I'll be publishing the instructions for this on my website. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. So, now, I'm an aerospace engineer after all, and my real target is actually a robotic aircraft being controlled by a Raspberry Pi. Some engineers have actually sent the Raspberry Pi near space, you know, 40 kilometers up, and I'm hoping to, you know, to send this Raspberry Pi to the skies as well. And now, with the greater availability of Raspberry Pi to everyone, if you combine this with the new online courses that are coming out, like Stanford University is coming out with new courses, it's going to be a very interesting time for the new generation. So, Eben was actually saying that, or somebody from the Raspberry Pi Jam in London, or I think that was Google, were saying that it's very hard to find good engineers, but with these new opportunities given by the Raspberry Pi and free online courses, I'm sure that situation won't stay for long. So that's about it, and I'll be passing on to the next person in my presentation. I'll be doing the rest of my presentation in the demo room later.
So I'll be reminding Arthur and all of our speakers, if you've got notes and slides and images, please share them through Twitter. And all of our bloggers, they're going to come and land on you later, Arthur. They're going to say, how can we find out more about this? So they can share it in the blog. Now, before I introduce our next speaker, you know, I keep saying about it's great how the Raspberry Pi is a great learning tool, and we're trying to encourage people to get into good hacking. What I'm trying to avoid is something that happened a couple of years ago in my school. So we have this cashless dining system, where if you want to go up to the cafe, you take out your card, and if you get free school meals, or if you pay for them, it doesn't matter, because you just bring up your card, no stigma attached, you go up, you swipe your card, and the nice lady says, "Hello, Martin, what would you like to order today?" And you say, "I'm going to have something healthy, I've got a bit of salad," and that kind of stuff. They say, "Yes, give me the burger instead," or whatever. But that's how they do it. These two very clever children in our school, 11 years old, they thought, hang on, why do I have to wait every month till my mum and dad put money on the dinner card? Why don't we just find a way of getting into this dinner card system? Like hacking, because hacking's good, and we're not getting much out of our ICT lessons. So let's explore this alternative curriculum. So that's what they did. So these two guys, 11 years old, worked out this way that they could automatically top up. And hey, it was free. It didn't cost them anything. Way. So this was their fantastic idea. didn't quite work according to plan because, yes, they figured out they could top up their dinner cards. The next day, they went into school and they were, let's play it nice and calm, let's play it nice and cool. Go up to the dinner lady, swipe a card. Dinner lady went, oh, Richard, you've got £5,000 today on your dinner card. Now, I thought that was amazing that happened, and I really wanted to put these two guys up on a podium and say, hey guys, you're heroes. Unfortunately, the head teacher didn't take the same viewpoint. They got excluded for about 3 days. But hopefully with things like the Raspberry Pi and people like my friend who was sat here before, we can encourage good hacking. Now, somebody that's helping us do that is Rob Voisey. And Rob is from Fen Consultants, and he's going to talk to you about pimping. But it's a good pimping. So, Rob, come and pimp.
Kind of pimping. Okay, so that's a bit loud. So a couple of weeks ago, I got my Pi through the post after waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks, which was quite exciting. But I also got another toy through the post at the same time. And being a collector of exciting toys, especially if they've got arms inside of them, I immediately spotted an application to combine the two. The Pi you know all about, hopefully. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the second toy, my Imp, and how I'm bringing the two together. By pimping my Imp, if you have a Pi and an Imp, it just has to be done, and I had to get there first. So I should tell you what an Imp is, an electric Imp. So you probably can't see this at the back because it's extremely small, and that's kind of the point. This looks a lot like an SD card, yeah? Because it's exactly the same shape and size and has exactly the same kind of connections on the back. But it's not an SD card. It's a fairly fast ARM microcontroller, an STM32, and an 802.11n Wi-Fi chipset in a very small package designed by a guy who used to come to the Acorn groups in Bristol many years ago, Hugo Fines, for his new startup company, Electric Imp. And the purpose of this is to connect things to the internet. So we're all used to being connected to the internet now as people. And we're all used to connecting our computers to the internet, and that's really easy. But connecting our washing machines to the internet is currently fairly difficult. And our fridges and our letterboxes and our cat flaps, none of those things conveniently connect to the internet right now. So this is designed to improve that situation. This small card is designed to plug into domestic appliances. So here, I'm afraid he's moved to America. It's kind of sad. So that's an American main socket. Next to that, you see there's a slot right here which you plug your Imp into. So without your Imp plugged in there, that's just a standard American main socket, and hopefully pretty soon it's the kind of thing that will be fitted to houses around the world. You add this, and now you've got internet control of that main socket. And that happens through a service that Electric Imp run, which is a web-based planner. It runs on your smartphone as well, which allows you to connect these things together and to connect them to other things on the internet. So here, for example, is a node, which is a temperature logger, and here is another node, which is an HTTP post. That's basically an interface into the World Wide Web. So my temperature sensor in my lounge can be connected to the World Wide Web, and while I'm at work, I can see how warm it is at home. There's more compelling applications for it, I promise. So the problem with Electric Imp is that those guys are completely focused on their service, not least because that's how they're going to make their money, but also because they're very focused on making it very simple, very consumer. It's a product that hobbyists have got a lot of interest in, but ultimately the money is going to come from people buying washing machines and so forth. As a result, their service is doesn't connect very easily with gadgets and devices around your house. It connects very easily with things like websites and things that live outside of your house. But if you want to connect to home projects and things that you've built at home, like your electric cat flap and things of that nature, it's a little bit more difficult, not least because these nodes to get back into your house would have to come through your firewall, and it's all starting to become quite messy. So I thought about connecting an IMP to a Pi being a very convenient, very low cost, pretty high-powered general-purpose computing device. So the simple architecture that I came up with this is electric IMP as you can buy it and as exists right now, with each of the devices or a light switch or whatever talking to their cloud on the internet. And then this is my pimp, which has got one of their imps in it, and that talks to their cloud. On the other side of that, we've got whatever you can plug into a Raspberry Pi, and that's anything, right? Or whatever software you can run on a Raspberry Pi. So on here, I could implement my own house automation controller in BBC Basic, probably, but certainly in C or Python. As I control light switches, or if I'm away on holiday, as certain timed events happen, when the postman rings the doorbell, lots of different things can be happening inside my house on my hardware, all interfaced into the Raspberry Pi. I only wrote these slides a few hours ago, so I can't remember what the next one is, so I may be jumping ahead. Slightly jumping ahead. So the interfaces that are actually, now I've got another slide that covers that, so let's talk about this. These are a couple of developer boards which Electric Imp have sold mostly for people like us, hobbyist enthusiast types, makers, to interface into interesting things. And I've used the simpler of these boards, which really just breaks this out to some pins, to interface my Electric Imp to my Raspberry Pi. And the intention is for that to happen over the SPI interface. If you've got your Raspberry Pi, you might have already seen the large P1 connector, which is the 2 rows of pins in here. And if you're not a bit of a hardware hacker, you may have ignored it. But there's loads of good stuff on there. And SPI is a fast serial port. Unfortunately, I can't use it yet because the Pi doesn't support SPI slave, and they haven't implemented it on here yet. So for now, I'm using a plain old-fashioned kind of serial port. But, you know, for collecting data like temperature sensors and that kind of thing, it's plenty fast enough. So when the two are connected together, that's how complicated the circuit is, and I didn't bother fitting the fuse. So we have here an Electric Imp card sat on top of a Raspberry Pi, interfaced over just these few wires. So now this Pi is connected to the Electric Imp cloud, and vice versa. It goes both ways. And Patrick, who's going to do his best to sell you lots of cases, and you should buy them, even made me a custom pimp case as well, with my logo on, which I thought was very nice of him. So this is just to show you basically what it can do at its sort of simplest, most basic level. This is a configuration file that sits on your Raspberry Pi. It's just a text file. And this just this defines what the program I've written does to move data between the two universes. It's all open source, by the way. So, for example, we've got an input into the Pi, and all it's going to do is dump onto the console, so you just see it come up on the terminal. Any data coming in, it's going to be a number, and it's my doorbell. So I'll see a 1 come up when somebody presses the doorbell. As well as just printing on the console, which is of limited use, you can move data in and out of named pipes, in and out of other serial ports, which in the case of the Pi is going to involve USB serial ports since it doesn't have anything on board beyond the one that I'm using. or to Ethernet ports, so just TCP ports in and out. And that means you can plug virtually anything into this. So if you've got other home automation controllers, the combination of a serial port and Ethernet covers interfacing with any of that stuff. If you're writing your own software, a named pipe gives you a very straightforward way of interfacing with this imp universe. And you just run the little program I've written. You'll probably fix some bugs first, and it will do that job for you.
1 minute, okay?
Yeah, this is the last slide. So once it's all connected up, this is how it looks in the electric imp world. On the Pi, it all looks very texty because I haven't done anything pretty yet. I will do some graphical configuration. But this is the pimp. And here we've got some things in the imp world. There's a temperature logger. There's something that's just outputting noughts and ones coming into this world. Things coming out of the pimp world. Here I've got them being sent off to the World Wide Web. And we just drag nodes between it. Whenever in that text file that you saw, every line, every port you set up becomes a node connection on this thing. And then it's just as simple as dragging the arrows around. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you're interested in the project, I'm blogging about it a little bit on my blog. It's a completely personal project, nothing to do with the company. I only put my company name up there in case I get some work. Source code, all open source for both the pimp, for both the imp and the Pi. It's in an early stage, but I'll finish it off over the next few days. And that's on GitHub, so you can claim that project if you want. And if you're interested in more about the electric imp, that's their website.
So thanks, Rob. As I mentioned before, Rob's going to be available afterwards. So any questions, and you want to know more about pimping and
I have that stuff all working as well there.
He's got it all working as well. And that's no reflection on our other speakers. I wasn't looking at you deliberately, no. Now, remember, I mentioned before we've got this fantastic cafe over there called Friska. Look how happy they are in their work. Keith is going over to try, because people have said it's amazing. And if you've not had a chance to figure out why it's so amazing, follow Keith and figure out why it's so amazing. He'll tell you. It really is worth going over. And if we have more Raspberry Jams here, and I hope we do, and you want these people to come back, support them. Go and buy something and sample some of the food. I think I'll go and do that in a little while. Now, famous guy once said, it's called Nolan Bushnell, and he came up with the idea for this Pong game and worked with Atari. And he said, everybody who's ever had a shower has had a bright idea. But it's the people who get out of the shower, they dry themselves off first. That's important. They dry themselves off first, and then they think, you know what, I'm going to make that idea happen. These people are priceless. These are the ones who helped change the world. I got an email a few months ago from our next speaker, Paul Hallett, and he said, look, I've got this idea, but I need some money. And I said, I'm sorry, Paul, I'm a teacher, I haven't got any money. But that's no, I just want to tell you about my idea. And he was looking for funding to fund this idea, which I'm going to tell you about in a moment, DJangoPi. And I said to him today, how are you going? Are you getting near your target? No. We've exceeded our target. We've gone beyond it, and it's happening. So let Paul tell you what's happening. So Paul Hallett from Plymouth, talk to us.
Hi everyone. So I started, basically I got my Raspberry Pi, and the first thing I wanted to do with it, because I'm a software guy, was stick Django on it. So I did that. I stuck Django on it, and then I realised this is great. People can run Django, they can run their own web servers on a little Raspberry Pi. But the younger students aren't going to know how to do all what I did quite easily. So I wrote a very small bash script to do it, and I put it on GitHub. And people were saying, oh, this is really good. This is a really great way to teach kids how to run their own web server from home. And some of the people who I was on work placement with were encouraging me to try and actually go and do workshops for that at school. Sorry, this is my first presentation. I suffer quite badly from nerves, so sorry if I stutter. So I needed to get some funding to be able to actually buy lots of Raspberry Pis because I'm a poor student. And and have currently reached 105% funding. I'm not sure. I think that might be the first successfully funded Raspberry Pi project. Yeah, thank you. And there's still 12 days to go. So basically what I'm trying to do is go to as many schools and do workshops as possible, but I'll get onto that. And I'm kind of setting the budget a little bit high, so for every £50, I know it's probably a lot, but for every £50 more I can raise, I'm trying to go to another school. And obviously, the more I raise, the further I can go, because I'll be down in Plymouth when I go back to uni. So, yeah. Right. Probably, so I've been raising these funds with a company called SponsorCraft, who do crowdfunding specifically for schools and societies. All schools, not just universities. So if schools want to actually raise some funds to purchase their students' Raspberry Pis, they can do it for SponsorCraft as well. And the DJangoPi project is now an educational project to teach students about the Raspberry Pi, the Python programming language, and the Django framework. As the name implies, DJangoPi, the two main focuses of that are the Raspberry Pi and Django, but because Python obviously runs on the Raspberry Pi, and the Django, it fits in there quite nicely. For those who don't know, I should have said this at the beginning, Django is a web framework that runs on Python. So the first part of this project is the website. The website is a website which is full of tutorials teaching kids how to do various stuff with a Raspberry Pi. Not just practical stuff, but also some kind of the theory of programming and logic and everything. And here is a nice little screenshot. It's still in development. Yeah, that's the first time I've ever shown anyone other than myself and the guys I know the screenshot, so I feel privileged. And I'm running the entire website on a Raspberry Pi device, which a lot of people keep telling me isn't going to happen. I won't be able to do that. But I keep telling them that actually that's not a bad thing, because I always like challenges, and I'm sure I can figure out a way to run a Raspberry Pi on an entire website on a Raspberry Pi, And just for comparison, this was probably quite old, but Amazon Web Services' most basic cluster, as you can see there, most startups and companies now run their services on Amazon, give you an idea of the stats between a Raspberry Pi running as a server and Amazon Web Services. So it is much smaller, but as I say, I'm considering that a challenge and not much of a limitation. And part two is the main thing. So, as I said previously, the website has a whole host of tutorials on various things, and they're really nicely laid out. This is probably the best design work I've ever done on a website before, because I've always been really crap at design. I've tried to make it really nice and easy to read. And I'm actually trying to encourage people like yourself, especially the older people, to contribute their own tutorials to the website once it's live. So I'll get real practical knowledge from you guys who know the things that people really need to learn, and not stuff that might help them pass an exam. Yeah. Okay, so now that I've raised the funding, I've managed to purchase around about 15 Raspberry Pi devices and save up funding to go to some conferences, one in Germany in October, and also the Python conference in the UK, which is in September, I believe. And I'm also going to be going to 10 different schools. I'm doing this in collaboration with Plymouth University, who basically realised that this is actually a really cool idea, because they've been trying to teach schools locally various stuff, but they had no real kind of killer app type things, so they couldn't really go in and provide workshops for free. They were trying to charge, and I'm saying, well, I've got all these devices and all this money for travel, I can afford to go and do this. So I'm going to be doing this. And hopefully, if there's around 30 students, I can educate 300 students a bit better, and encourage the schools to sort of teach less of this. You might have seen on Twitter recently. This is a computer science shelf in Waterstones, I believe, with a load of terrible books on how to do computer science. I don't know about anyone here, but my computer science education was terrible, and I was shown how to do PowerPoint until I got to sixth form, and then I dropped out because they then moved on to Publisher, and I wanted to learn how to build websites. So I dropped out and went to college and did a real course. We want to, everyone here agrees that we don't want kids to have computer science education where they're taught how to do something really basic. You don't go to PE to learn how to walk, you know. We want to teach more of this. So up in the top right-hand corner here, we've got a hackathon in New York, and then they do these all the time over in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is, you know, the big place for startups. We want to encourage, and what I really want to do is encourage these kids to go out and try run their own websites from their home, learn Python, do stuff. And I think going into the schools and encouraging the teachers to do that by showing them how easy it is to teach them and providing the website, and also the website, the way it recursively runs on a Raspberry Pi and teaches about the Raspberry Pi, will shine a light on the possibilities for the school kids or any student of any age, how easy it is to do sorts of stuff like this. And it'd be really nice to get some big companies from this country and maybe make a few Bill Gateses. So,
Paul, would you like 1 more minute?
Yeah, I'm pretty much done. So, the future is where I'm going. And very briefly, you can tell I did this on the way here because I just ran out of images. The website's going to go live, hopefully in September. I'm sticking it in a cupboard in Plymouth University, so I'm not running it from home and throttling my home broadband. I'm also going to be building a feature which it's not going to go live yet, but there will be a way for teachers to create lesson plans out of the tutorials that hopefully you guys would have written. Probably be mostly me for the minute. I have written maybe 20 or 30 tutorials. I've learned stuff myself to write tutorials for. And workshops, more. I want to do more. I want to do more than 30 kids at a time. And I want to go beyond the Southwest. So, one of the Plymouth University actually funded this project a lot. And the reason they did that was so that I would do some university research on low-power devices like the Raspberry Pi and running stuff more efficiently on them. And I might consider sort of making a custom Linux distro for a lightweight server running on a Raspberry Pi. So that's my project. I'm on Twitter if you want to follow me and talk to me about it. And without sounding like I'm begging, if you want to fund the Heber project and help me teach some more kids, there's a link there. So come and speak to me afterwards if you're interested or want to know more. Thank you.
So that was Paul Hallett, and very helpful, he's put on there his Twitter handle, which is @pholt. Pholt, with another score. Or Folt. Folt? Folt. Okay, it's Folt, folks. Now, did you know we have a member of the Raspberry Pi Foundation here tonight? See if you can spot him or her. Oh, I can see somebody moving in my field of vision. Oh, and he's just stroked his nose. Come on, he's over there. Rob Bishop, come step forward. And the plan is, just so you can get to see Rob, Rob's going shortly on a tour around the US. He's going to be going around all these maker fairs and stuff and answering questions all about Raspberry Pi. He's going to answer 3 questions now. So we're going to take 3 questions for Rob. But then what he's going to do, when we go into our next breakout session where we spread the jam, I'm going to ask Rob if he can head up... was it Statler and Waldorf? Give us a wave, Statler and Waldorf from the Muppet Show. No, they're not claiming those titles. Okay, I don't blame them. These are friendlier than Statler and Waldorf. Would you be able to, after our 3 questions, you'll head upstairs and then people can go over and they can ask and say, how can I do this and how can I do that? And so let's go and get some questions. So who's going to be the first person to ask a question? Rob. For Rob.
Well, should I just introduce myself first? Makes sense, Paul. Some random guy.
That's a brilliant idea. Yeah.
So good to see so many of you here. So I've come from Cambridge to support the Raspberry Pi Foundation. So I work with Eben at the moment. I'm an intern at Broadcom. I'm still a master's student at university, so I'm very much still in education in some ways. And I'm doing some of the sort of developer relations stuff for the foundation. And the foundation doesn't organise these events. And so it's awesome to come to these things where I've just turned up and there's already loads of people here with Raspberry Pis, who don't even know that we're involved, just going around and doing cool stuff. And it's something we really want to support. So I'll be around to answer any questions people have, but for now we're going to take 3 quick questions.
Okay, so our first question is from Monique, who's going to be writing a blog about some of this. So Monique.
Hi. I am the, resident Canadian. Hi.
Hi.
So I'm a noob to all this Raspberry Pi. So how would you describe Raspberry Pi to a noob?
Sure. Okay. Well, to do the brief paraphrasing Eben bit, this is usually Eben's spiel, but Eben Upton basically founded the Raspberry Pi Foundation, and he was Director of Computer Science at St John's in Cambridge, and he was there in the Cambridge Computer Science Laboratory with a bunch of other guys, and he was concerned that every year the quality of students they were getting in was getting worse and worse. And he was concerned that you start off with a generation who were very comfortable with programming to a generation who literally had just been taught Microsoft Office products in ICT lessons. And he was really concerned that the quality of engineering from the sort of Hallett days, the BBC Micro, was really declining. And he wanted to make sure that computer science was something that we really encouraged people to do. And so he's always wanted to make a really small, cheap computer, something that was kind of bare bones enough that it was bare bones enough and cheap enough that any kid could have one, anyone could buy one. It's not much of a barrier to entry, but it's low level enough that it's a bare bones board. You can boot into a command line interface, and actually it's sort of a bit more like the BASIC and not so much all this skeuomorphic Apple stuff where actually it's trying to take you as far away from the actual workings of the OS as possible. So Eben now is at Broadcom. He is a chip architect, and he worked on the chip which has now allowed the Raspberry Pi to happen, which is the Broadcom chip that's on it. And we're now, initially the phase we're on now is this board is a development board. So the grand plan is that eventually, we'll make this cheap enough that we can get this into lots of schools, we can get these in the hands of all the kids in the country. That's what we want to do. We want to get some educational partners coming on, writing material for this. We want to make sure that there's lots of support for teachers. But right now, it's about making this as stable as possible, getting people involved with this, and ultimately it's about building up the community. So we're moving towards a point where both the hardware and the software will be open source. At which point, what does the foundation have? Well, the foundation then has the most valuable thing, which is you guys. Yeah? Ultimately, that is what the foundation is going to, own. I mean, no one gets paid, it's a charity, right? But ultimately, what we have is the community. And by releasing something to all the sort of hackers and slightly more sort of technically minded people first, what we're hoping is to get loads of projects that are working on it that will then expand onto sort of educational things. So DJangoPi projects is a perfect example of this. So this is someone who bought a Raspberry Pi because he goes, hey, I like making things, this is cool, starts playing with it and does some stuff which we can then use to teach. And actually that's how we want to do it. You guys are effectively going to become the support, you guys are going to become the educators. And that's the aim.
And we've got a question now coming up from George, who's not too shy.
What's an easy way to learn Java?
Okay, so...
Good luck, Rob, with that one.
Yeah. So Java's great, yeah? Java's great.
It is?
But, well, it's great. It's not yet great on the Pi, right? For technical reasons. And we are working with Oracle who make Java to get a JVM which actually works with the hardware floating points. It's a lot more accelerated. Incidentally, the ARM processor that's on our board, the ARM processor on our board is a Giselle part, which means it's bytecode compatible, but actually that's slower than using the built-in JVM anyway, which is one of those things that didn't really work out for ARM. Java. So I'd actually say go and learn Python. Right? Because the problem is if you go and learn Java, the first thing people...
Say it again.
Yeah, is go and learn Python. Because... well, is that for C?
No, it's basic.
Basic. Oh, basic. That's actually... Okay, so I think the progression we see, right, is we really like Scratch, yeah, as an introduction to sort of control flow and understanding how programming works. So it's got a bit of a myth, I think people will agree with me here, that people see programming as like syntax and writing code, when actually the best programming is basically done on flowcharts. Yeah? And ultimately, there's a lot more thinking time to writing time that goes into code. And Scratch is actually quite good for that, because Scratch teaches you to program in a kind of control flow, thinking about if this happens, what's going to happen next, what's going to happen after that type way. And you can produce something that's graphical and had all the thinking behind it without having to worry about syntax and actually writing code. We then quite like things like BASIC, because BASIC is, like Python, it's an interpreted language, which means that you can write something and see the response straight away. You don't have to write a whole load of C code and wait for it to compile and then see what happens when that doesn't work.
Yeah? And Basic and Python are really good for just getting in there and just, I mean, you can use them as a calculator, right? So you can boot up Python and just use Python or Basic and just use it as a calculator. You know, just use that as your desktop instead of, you know, using MS Calculator or whatever, which is terrible anyway, right? And you can get into it that way. Now, the nice thing about Python is that if you go and do Java, a lot of people say with Java, you really need to go into it thinking about class hierarchies and stuff first. And that's where most people start teaching Java. And Python's a great language because you can start off interpreted. You can start off just writing some code and seeing something come back straight away. You can then go away and write code, compile it, and then see what happens. And then you can go away and start doing object-oriented code. I mean, the best Python is object-oriented in the way that Java is. Sorry, this is probably a bit technical. But essentially, right, the answer is go and learn Python. There's a great book that, like, taking off my foundation hat that I personally quite like, called Learn Python the Hard Way. That basically, no one likes reading books about, like, technical stuff, really. Like, not when you're at school and you have loads of technical stuff you don't want to learn anyway. And basically, it takes you through programming things. So it goes straight away, it goes, here's some code, go and write it. And then it goes, great, now let's work out what it did. And that's quite fun. So I've got no investment in that, by the way. That's just, I quite like that book. But yes, we really like Python. Sorry, go on.
So, we're going to leave it at that. Rob Bishop, thanks very much. So, what's going to happen in a few moments? Did I say to move? Remember, the bell's a signal to me, not to you. They laughed. I am funny after all. I have a funny way of walking as well. Right, Rob's going to go upstairs in a moment, and he's going to apologise to Statler and Waldorf for Eliot, because I didn't actually mean that as an insult. It was just, I thought it was funny, and they didn't think it was funny. But he's going to go upstairs in a moment. The cafe is still open, so you're going to head to the cafe in a moment. Look at those friendly smiles. Don't you just want to go over and buy them a Raspberry Pi? Oh, you didn't bring any, did you?
No. So, okay. Can I quickly say something about that? So, funny story, right? So, Eben is now, well, as of this week, he's now speaking at the same events as Wozniak, right? So, he's starting to be quite busy. And so, I go last week and I was like, right, I'm going to go to these Raspberry Pi events. I was at National Museum of Computing for the Milton Keynes event yesterday, and here for this today. And I was like, I need some Raspberry Pis. He's like, brilliant, I've got loads. I was like, excellent. I was like, I'll leave some on my desk, and you can come pick them up on Monday. I was like, great, sounds great. Go up to his desk, and there are no Raspberry Pis, but quite a large pile of cash and post-it notes from engineers in the office. And I was like, yeah. So it's kind of unfortunate. So actually, I don't have any Raspberry Pis either. I actually did a talk a week ago at Young We Ride State, and I had to go and steal a Raspberry Pi off one of the developers' desks to go and show it. So, see, that's why the USB stuff is a bit like dicey.
So have you brought that one? Have you brought that one with you to sell?
No, I've not got anything with me. Literally nothing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, let's show it for Rob Bishop. Thank you. Now, this is where the jam begins, because we've got about an hour now. The people at BBSP have said, you've got some amazing speakers here. I said, you haven't even heard the people who haven't spoken yet. We haven't. So we're going to extend the time, if you want, slightly to the end. But it's not over. This is where the fun begins. Because in a moment, you're going to get up off that very comfortable seat, and you're going to go around, you're going to talk to people and say, what did you think about that? What did you think about that? And don't be shy. If you're shy and you don't talk to them, you're not going to find out. Now, the plan was not to blind you with computing science. We may have done that, but that was not the plan. We weren't, you've seen things like home automation and voice-controlled robot arms, flying Raspberry Pis, robotic Lego rats. That's a new one to me. So you can see now the sky is no longer the limit. The sky is no longer the limit. But we weren't trying to frighten you. It was to inspire you, to give you some ideas. Some of these are hard acts to follow. But go around and find out how do these people get started. So we're going to have a demonstration room in a moment, but we can only fit about 60 people in there at a time. So go in there, find somebody, see something, and then come out and start a conversation. Look at all these cool sofas, all these spaces there are upstairs, spaces yet to be explored. No Raspberry Pi has ever gone up there before. Go and find out what's going on upstairs. Go and say hello to our friends over there at Frisca. Come and fluctuate, talk, move around, but don't fill the room, because otherwise You know. And we've got some people in there demonstrating things like Patrick's selling some cool gear. Go and find out what the cool gear is that he's selling. And we've got Peter Noah Sad with his charm and Barney Livingston. That's Fred Flintstone's friend with his twit beeb. Go and find out what they're doing. We'll meet you back here at 9:15. Go and explore.